of the stimulus plan. Now, the state had proposed cuts of up to 20% of the amount of money that they would contribute to in-home health care services. Those cuts would have gone into effect on July 1st. But under the terms of the so-called stimulus bill, the states are not allowed to reduce the money for existing services. Several union groups brought these proposed cuts to the feds, who then ruled in their favor.
Now, that ruling isn't going over very well with everybody. Here at home, some fear that the White House will now dictate how states solve their budget problems and use the stimulus money as a bargaining chip. Congressman Bilbray took a moment from his busy morning of national and international television interviews to talk with us as well. Thank you. We're your favorite, right?
Yeah, absolutely your favorite. I got to get the surf report from Dan every morning I can get in here.
They get about 2 to 4, a little disorganized this morning, but I think you can find something on a longboard.
I appreciate it. I mean, this case is sort of strikes home with me because I've got a healthcare person at home watching my mother right now.
Yeah.
But it's not about the healthcare. It's about the fact that the so-called stimulus was supposed to be about helping, but it's really about control. It's about centralizing the control of our day-to-day lives more and more into Washington. Here's a good example. Your freely elected governor, working through the state system, has created a way to reduce costs during this crisis. But Washington is going to supersede them and be able to say, no, you don't get to do this. This is almost like the third world countries where governors aren't elected by the people in the state. They're appointed by the federal government. This is the kind of thing this kind of thing that really people should be concerned about when Washington says, we're going to do this. And remember, Sandra, this is basically controlling your state with your tax money that's been taken to Washington and now comes back and say, you only get back your tax dollars if you do what I tell you to do.
Yeah, well, it's almost like when the major banks and the corporations took the money, suddenly they had to live by the conditions that the federal government, I mean, so really, you know, they call General Motors now Government Motors.
Dan, the difference was the bailout for the Government Motors was not their money. Yeah. It was ours.
Right.
So it wasn't, you know, the difference here is our money that is being used to extort from us our local control and our local freedom.
So how would you like to see things change?
Well, it should be this. Look, we should be rewarding states for making these tough decisions. The employees here in the cities, look at San Diego. Employees are taking a pay cut across, trying to maintain, trying not to lay people off. And that's a responsible way right now, not to punish people for doing that. If you're going to do this for the healthcare workers in Sacramento, why aren't you doing it here? And how are you ever going to be able to balance the budget? It's always, we've got to grow the bureaucracy. Never can we try to balance it.
Speaking of budgets, California has a $40 billion budget shortfall that the governor and everybody else is trying to close. Californians will be voting on these 6 propositions. How do you stand on them?
I go today. I have to vote today if I'm going to get a vote in because I'm going to be in Washington. And frankly, I don't like what I see. And you're talking about somebody whose local government has had to balance the budget. Remember, Prop 13. We lived through Prop 13. We had 30–40% reduction in my little city where I was mayor. But these are tough times to make some tough decisions. And frankly, right now, I have a tough time supporting the proposals I'm seeing coming out of Sacramento.
Yeah, they're going down in terms of the polls right now. None of them is leading. Maybe that final one, that last one.
Yeah, F is leading. That's where you can prevent elected officials from getting salary hikes.
And that is a token gesture. It's sort of like, let's take a shot on there. I think there's issues about can the lottery be operated more efficiently than what it is now. I think that's a legitimate concern. But again, I think a lot of this is going to be credibility across the board. And I think those of us in Washington, those of us in Sacramento have got to understand this is bigger than just dollars and cents. It's really about credibility and trust in our government structure. And frankly, I trust the local guys. I trust our mayors and our supervisors and our council members a lot more than I trust those of us in Washington or Sacramento.
Well, you know, they say all politics is local when it really comes down to it.